Hello and welcome to the 7th video in our Ansible workbook series. Okay, so we have, as we can see here, another Junos router has been added into our topology. So our scenario here is we've been requested by our manager to add in the second Juniper router, configure both routers for OSPF. We've been tasked with setting up iBGP between the 4 named routers in preparation for future configurations, and OSPF have been removed from the edge routers, and the non-area 0 OSPF configurations have been removed from the named routers. So our tasks are to inspect the host YAML files for the Juniper devices, apply OSPF via a playbook to Junos 1 and Junos 2, create a playbook to verify the OSPF configurations on the Juniper devices, then inspect the host YAML files for the named routers, create a BGP Jinja2 template based off the host YAML files, write a playbook that will add BGP to the named routers using the Jinja2 template, and build a playbook to validate the BGP configuration on the named routers. So all in all, not an awful lot to where we're up to with this. So let's get the pen up so we can see what we need to do. Okay, so where we are so far is we have removed the OSPF between these devices, so there's no OSPF neighborships and there's no OSPF configuration on any of the edge devices, and we've removed the OSPF from the named routers that link back to it, so they only have OSPF area 0 now. So in regards of the Junos routers, what we have already is OSPF is configured here, here and here on the named routers, but the Juniper routers have not got OSPF configured at all. So we need to put in this link, this link, this link, this link, and these links as well onto the Juniper devices. Now, we don't really need to use a Jinja template for this because, as we can see, let's just get rid of that, the interfaces that we're using there and there are the same on both the devices. So what we can do, we can actually just do this as a normal Juniper command structure where we just add those particular interfaces in. Because they're the same on both routers, we should be able to put that in without a problem. Okay, so let's have a little look and examine some of the host files and see where we're up to on this. So let's jump out of this for now and let's get on to Visual Studio Code. Okay, so we're in lab 7, so let's have a look at our host variables specifically for Junos. So as we can see here, Juniper, we have only the interfaces have been added in, same as what we've done for the likes of the Cisco devices. So we have our interfaces, we have our descriptions, of course things like the connection details, they are in the group files, so we can see that right there, we have our connection stuff there. Now if you're curious, again, as we was in the Cisco ones, how to build the Junos host files, it's exactly the same as how we done with the Cisco ones, to a point whereby I included the playbooks within the actual GitHub as well. So this will be uploaded to the GitHub later. This is just a quick Ansible file that will iterate over the actual interfaces. It does a show interface terse, display JSON, and there are descriptions, display JSON, and it will use a template file for Juniper interfaces, as we can see here, and it will then capture the data, and it will create the actual host variable files for us directly. Saves us having to be typing everything out. The only thing you need to remember, and I should have mentioned this actually in the last video when I also shared the ones for the Cisco, is I've not set these up to append. So if you have, so for argument's sake, if I was to add a load of information, let's say in the let's get in Junos 1 for argument's sake. So if I was to add a load of information in here, like connection details, OSPF details, BGP, etc., and then I was to run that playbook again to get the interfaces to build the YAML file, it will completely overwrite this. So what I should really have done is actually set them to append to it, but something I've not done yet. So be mindful if you do use the Cisco or Juniper version of this, that if you're trying to just build out the files and you add to them and then you run it again, it will overwrite what you've already put there, so you'll lose the data. So we'll have to do like in the mend flag. We'll do that in a later date. So anyway, so we've had a look at the host files. So the host files at the moment, I've only got the interfaces in them, so that's fine. We're not really going to use that at the moment, you know, for what we're going to do for the OSPF configuration, but we will be using the host files for the BGP configuration that are on the named routers. Okay, so first thing we want to do then is add OSPF to this. So if we go back to our topology, as we can see, we're using Giga Ethernet 0, 1 and 3. Okay, and it's the same on both of them, so it's a relatively straightforward command. There's one or two little things that you'll see that is actually slightly different than when we do the verification commands, but on the whole it's not too bad. So let's jump back on here and let's do a touch, and we'll call it add underscore Junos underscore OSPF.YAML. All right, and let's maybe if I was to bring the right one up, that would actually be helpful. And we start again with our 3 dashes, and we call it a name. We call it add OSPF, and the hosts. And the hosts on this one we will put just as Junos, and gather facts is false. Well, you can put false, or you can put no. I mean, they both do the same thing. Normally people put false or true, but you know, I always seem to get away with just using yes and no. So let's do no on that. Okay, great. So that's the beginnings of our playbook. So let's do our tasks. Okay, brilliant. Let's give it our name. Add Junos OSPF. All right, and what we're going to use here in terms of the module, we're going to use the Juniper networks.junos underscore OSPF v2 module. So let's do that. So Juniper networks .junos underscore OSPF v2. Okay, so that's the module that we're using, and of course you can always go on to the Ansible website for this, you know, and have a look at the actual module, and it will give you the syntax that you need to actually do. So let's do our config. Okay, great stuff. Okay, so the first thing we're going to config on this is our areas. That's the first thing. And then we're going to do our area underscore ID. And we're going to do this in the dotted formation for, or dotted format for Juniper. So we're going to be in area 0. Now we need to say what interfaces we want it in. And the interfaces that we're going to use on this, and again, this is a list. So let's do our name, and it's going to be GE / oh, got a bit confused there because iOS XR has 4 zeros. So it's going to be Gig Ethernet 000 unit 0. And then the next one is going to be GE. Oh, okay. Yeah, just press that and go back and change it to 1 and 2. GE. All right, great stuff. Now that we've done that, we want to put the loop back in as well. So it's going to be LO0.0. And this is going to be passive, because obviously we don't want to be trying to form a neighborship on the actual loopback. Okay, so that is all we need to do with that. So let's save that. Okay, so that's saved. And let's clear the screen. Okay, so Ansible Playbook as Junos OSPF.YAML. Okay, going through. Let's have a little look. There we go. All right, so looks like we have added the OSPF. Let's double check this and see whether or not this has actually gone on. So we're going to create another playbook now just to verify this. So let's do a touch junos underscore show dot YAML. Okay, great. Now let's get that one up. Junos underscore. Right, so let's build a quick playbook for this. Okay, so as always, we start with our 3 dashes. Name. Okay, let's do show OSPF details. Okay, and hosts are going to be Junos. Gather facts is going to be no. Tasks. And cool, let's do our name. So our first task, we're going to say do the OSPF neighbors. Okay, and we're going to use the Juniper command module on here. So Juniper networks dot junos underscore command. Okay, and now we're going to give the commands, and it's just going to be show OSPF neighbor, OSPF IGP BOUR, and then we're going to register that after we put that as in actual shows. There we go. Right, so that looks good so far. Let's register that. So register as OSPF underscore NEI for neighbor. Our next task is going to actually display that. Display OSPF, and we're going to use the debug module on this. Now, unlike before where we would show the actual message, we use the var command on Juniper. So var and it's OSPF underscore neighbor, and it's standout lines, or STD outlines I should say. You notice how we're not putting it in the curly braces or the quotation marks. So now let's do our next one. So name, and this is going to be the root. And we're going to follow the exact same format. So it's going to be Juniper Networks command. Okay, that looks good. And then the commands. And let's do a show root OSPF. And let's register that. So register roots, and let's display the root as well in the next play. So do name, and let's call it DISP display roots. Okay, and let's do our debug, and let's do our var file on, or our variable rather. So var, and it's going to be roots, and it's going to be the dot standout std out underscore lines. Okay, that should be it. So let's save that, and let's give that a run and see what happens. So let's do, actually let's clear this first. Ansible playbook, and it's Junos JUN Junos show YAML. Let's have a look. Okay. All right, I've obviously misspelt it. 2 seconds and I will change that. All right, let's try that again. Clear. All right, here we go. Oh, did I not put my host in there? No. There we go. All right. Here we go. Ooh, I've done something wrong on that one. Oh, actually, I think that should be show root protocols OSPF. Alright, yeah, let's try that. There we go, that's better. Forgot to put the protocol in. Alright, so we can see, let's jump up to the top. So we can see that we have our neighborships there. So we have our show OSPF neighbors on Junos 1 and Junos 2. So we have neighbors with on Junos 1 with Manchester and London, and Junos 2 on Asia and America. So that's good. And we can see that we've actually learned all the routes as well. So Manchester, London, Asia, America, and Junos 2 on that one, plus the corresponding links between them as well, and the same with the other one. So I think that's been a success, so that's fantastic. So now we will get on to the next stage of the actual task. So let's bring the next stage up. Okay, so we've created Playbook and we verified the configurations, so that's fine. So inspect the host YAML files for the named routers, create a Jinja2 template, write a playbook to add BGP. Okay, so let's get cracking with that then. So let's just minimize that, don't need that, and let's jump on to our Visual Studio Code, which I'm already here. Okay, great stuff. Right, so host files, let's have a look. So we had a look at the host files in the last video, and obviously they've been slightly amended. Let's just pick on America. So when we last looked at them, we seen the interfaces, and we had some OSPF configuration on them as well. But now I've put in some IGP configuration. So we have the key of iBGP, and you can call this anything you like. You know, it doesn't have to be the same as what the protocol that you're doing. I could call this, you know, Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory if I really wanted to. That's just the key name. So I have my autonomous system number, in which case 6500. Got my BGP router ID, which is, you know, the loopback, which is 44444. And I have the neighbors that I'm going to peer with. Now, if we look at, say, Asia again, Asia has exactly the same, but specific for its own actual connections. So what we're going to do, we're going to build our Jinja2 template out using these key value pairs. Okay, so let's go into our templates. Let's get rid of that for a minute. And let's do a touch, and it's going to be templates and BGP.J2. Okay, so there's our template. Great stuff. Now, can we have the other file open as well? No, it's being awkward. Okay, whatever. I will refer back to it. I think actually once I start actually typing something in here, it should actually allow me to open the other one at the same time, so we can cross-reference it. Okay, so the first command that we would generally put in is router BGP, and let's just save that now, and let's just see if I can now open up one of these. There we go. Yeah, just a quirk of Visual Studio Code. Okay, so we have our router BGP, and what we need to do now is we need to build out. So we want to do our ASN number, because that's what we would actually do if we were typing the command. So it's router BGP, and the ASN number would be, in this case, 6500. So to complete the template, we can just do our two curly braces. When I say complete the template, I only meant just, you know, for this. So iBGP, and it will be .asn. All right, so what should happen is that would select for that particular router the value that's in iBGP ASN, in which case it will be the 6500. So that's good. So what we need to do now is we need to put our router ID in there. So BGP router ID, and now we need to tell it where to actually get this as well. So we're going to template this out. So if I remember rightly, it should be, let's have a look, it's iBGP, and it's BGP underscore router ID. Okay, so let's pop that in there. So it's iBGP dot BGP underscore router underscore ID. So that should pull the router ID out, which is exactly what we want. So now what we want to do some for loops on this. So if you remember when we done it last time, to start our for loops off, we would use our curly braces and we would use our percentage sign, and then we're going to do for peer in iBGP peers and then we'll close that off. Okay, that looks good. So if we look here, so for the peers which are in iBGP there and then peers, so what we do now, we complete the actual rest of the template. So we're going to do neighbor, B-O-O-R, so neighbor, and the neighbor is going to be, we'll put the templated one in there again. It's going to be peer.neighbor. All right, and then we know the next command after it's put the neighbor. So let's say neighbors 1.1.1.1. We now know that the next needs to be the remote AS, remote-AS, and then remote-AS, if we have a little look there, is under peer ASN. Okay, so we would then do our braces peer dot peer underscore ASN. Okay, so that would be our first line. So we've done our neighbor statement. So now what we need to do, because this is iBGP, we need to give it an update source of itself. So we'd do the same thing again. So neighbor, and then we can use the same command as we did before, and we will do peer.neighbor. All right, that looks good. And then the update source, and that's going to always be loopback 0 on these. And now what we need to do is do our next hop self, because when we do eventually do some eBGP neighborships between the edge routers and the named routers, we want to ensure that we can send the traffic more than one iBGP neighbor. We don't want it being black holed as a loop prevention mechanism. So neighbor and peer.neighbor. Okay, so peer.neighbor. So in other words, we say neighbor 11111, and then it's going to be next hop self. So next hop self. Okay, so that is the actual template. We just now need to end the for loop. So let's do the end for loop. Okay, and that should be it. So let's save that, and we've called that BGP. Okay, so that's fine. So let's do our playbook for actually adding BGP. So let's do touch add BGP .yaml. All right, let's open that one. Let's add BGP.yaml. All right, great stuff. All right, let's get cracking with this. All right, we call it name. Add BGP. And let's do a host. And it's routers, because it's going to be the 4 main routers. Gather facts is no. Tasks name add BGP via Jinja2. Yeah, it looks good to me. Okay, so we're going to use the iOS config module on this. So cisco.ios.config ios_config. Okay, and the lines. So normally this is where we would put in our configuration lines, like, you know, add this, add that, add the next thing. But now we're going to tell it to look up the actual template. So it's going to be look up, and let's do a, now don't forget, now that we've done a double quotation mark on the outside, we need to use a single quotation mark on the inside, otherwise we'll get a failure. So template, and we need to tell it what template it's going to be, and the template is bgp.j2. so it's bgp.j2. Now, as we already know, it will look automatically in the template folder, you know, specifically, but that's what this actually is, template, because it's the templates folder. Now what we could do, we could actually give it a full path if we wanted to. So we could actually say, you know, it's located in this particular path or in this folder, but because it looks in the templates folder first, then it will automatically find this. All right, so let's save that. Okay, so we're good to go. So let's apply this. Let's clear that, and let's apply this and see what happens. So it's Ansible Playbook, add bgp.yaml. I seem to get a lot of that at the moment. So let that be a lesson to you. Don't use config, use config. Yes. Don't be like me, use config. All right, let's try that again. Alrighty. Okay, so looks like we're going through. Shouldn't take too long. Should be passing through the templates. Oh, and there we have it. Fantastic. Okay, so looks like we have changes on both America, Asia, London and Manchester. All right, so all we need to do now is to do a very quick playbook to verify our configurations. I mean, again, we could easily just, you know, hop on and click on Manchester or America and double check, but you know, where's the fun in that? You know, and besides, at the end of the day, if you've, you know, thrown this on 100 routers, just checking one or two of them is, you know, is not quality control. You know, you need to be able to ensure that they're on everything. All right, so let's do a touch show bgp.yaml, and let's write this one quickly. I know the video's getting a little longer than normal, maybe. Name show BGP hosts routers gather underscore facts. No. So tasks, name shows, and we're going to use the iOS command module again. So Cisco, well, not again because we used the config one, but we're going to use the command one. So .ios underscore command. Fantastic. And let's give it our actual commands that we're going to do. All right, so we're going to do a show BGP neighbor. So NEIGHBOR, and we're going to do a show BGP summary, and we're going to register this. register as show, and let's display that. So display command shows, and let's do our debug, and let's do our message. So and it's show dot std out underscore lines. All right, let's save that and give that a run. So let's clear the screen, and let's do a Ansible playbook, and it's show bgp.yaml. Let's have a look. Wait, let's go through. Oh, there we go. Lovely jubbly. All right, so we can see that. Wait, let's scroll up a bit to the beginning. Oh, actually, there's crap tons there. Excuse my French. Maybe I shouldn't have done the summary command. But hey, you know, these things happen. All right, so we're receiving routes. We're sending routes, so that's good. Okay, so that was on America. Let's scroll up somewhat further and start at the... Okay, so display shows. So let's have a look. So we can see our neighborship is there. We can see that we're sending and receiving. Do we actually show the neighbors? The neighbors will be in here somewhere. Yeah, to be honest with you, I totally forgot that the output of this would be actually so big. But even so, we can see that it's done. So that's brilliant. So what we've achieved in this video series is that we have added OSPF to the Junipers. We've added, we've verified that as well. We've added BGP to the named routers via using a Jinja2 template, and we've confirmed it as well. So all's gravy. So I look forward to seeing you in the next video, where we're going to dive into some more spelling mistakes. I mean, into some more Ansible playbooks. Look forward to seeing you there.